Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. In today's episode, we'll be entering with the great 5-phase boss himself, Philip Sinclair. Being the first identity in the game to be able to manifest ego makes him a very interesting and unique case. Most of his kit functions off of burn, but the biggest factor that contributes to his playstyle is actually his sanity. With his introduction, Project Moon has given the sanity mechanic a much greater role in regards to identities that can manifest ego. The longer they stay in their ego form, the more sanity they will lose. This mechanic is likely going to extend to any future identities that have ego manifestation in their kit. For Philip Sinclair though, this sanity drain is further compounded by the fact that both his skill 2 and 3 consume extra sanity on use. To help alleviate this and allow him to stay in his ego form for longer, he always gains sanity when defeating enemies and an extra 5 when winning clashes. The most impactful part of his kit in regards to soloing is not the fact he gains an incredible power spike when manifesting ego, although it is a good bonus, but is instead that if he gets staggered the turn he manifests ego, he completely ignores the stagger. His defenses are pretty average, so being staggered is actually fairly common for him, but being able to negate a single stagger bar is absolutely invaluable. Support passives for this run are, like always, fairly standard, but the few exceptions are quite unique this time around. Those three are Daichi Hong Lu, Basie Song, and Gripper Faust. All of them serve the same purpose, sanity management. Without them, Sinclair would only be able to remain in ego form for about 2 to 5 turns depending on how many skill slots he has. Alternatively, you could replace them with passives that boost his damage further and continually re-roll until you get the Faith Ego gift at the very start of the run. Our starting ego gifts are Helterfly's Dream and Fiery Down, where we pick the Forgotten as our first floor. This floor's boss is against G-Corp, who is slightly dangerous for 2 reasons. The first being the fact that I start the fight with ego manifested means I cannot take advantage of the anti-stagger mechanic. The second is that with the Blubbering Toad's ego, we are weak to gluttony damage, so it's very easy for us to get staggered. This doesn't matter too much, as even though we don't have any ego resource generating gifts, the Mirror Dungeon's starting resources are enough to give us just enough to use Lifetime Stew, allowing us to turn off our weakness to gluttony. As soon as we're no longer weak to their attacks, Philip's sheer power is more than enough to wipe the floor with them. We take Pinpoint Logic Circuit as our reward and head into the Unconfronting as our next floor because of course we do. We buy Painkillers as well as an extra skill 3 and finish off buying Oracle. We also get Blue Zippo Lighter and one of the best ego gifts for Philip, the Rusty Commemorative Coin, before confronting Cromer. Having experienced a slightly difficult encounter before her, I enter into this fight at low health. It wasn't quite difficult enough to be worth talking about, just bleed being bleed, you know. But entering a fight at low health isn't that big of a deal for Sinclair, as he always has access to Lantern, which combined with Commemorative Coin is more than enough to offset the low health we entered with. Of course, the only way to beat Cromer is to force Corrosion on the 3rd turn, which is more than doable for us, especially since our ego of choice is a healing one. As soon as we are out of the forced Corrosion, we can easily stagger Cromer and regain all of our sanity. Unfortunately, Cromer's Gaze is one of the few stagger effects that can ignore Philip's anti-stagger, but it ultimately doesn't matter much as once again we gain our ego and can force her into phase 2, which falls even faster than the first. Thanks to having an AoE skill 2 and an absurdly powerful skill 3, her second phase doesn't stand a chance. Our DPS has never been higher than it is right now, and we take her out in a single turn. Our reward is Dust to Dust, where we pick To Be Pierced as our next floor. The literal first fight of this floor was actually one of the hardest of the run. Here we face against the Pequod town, who have such absurdly high damage that it's virtually impossible to go a single turn without getting staggered. This fight forced me to up-tie 4 Cavernous Wailing for the extra 6% shield it gave, because without it I would always get staggered turn 1. As soon as we're able to get out of the first turn, we can then manifest Ego, giving us the damage spike we desperately needed. The first turn of any fight is always the most difficult for any solo run, but it becomes even more apparent for this identity. As soon as we manifest Ego, it's basically an insta-win, but getting to that point is what's really challenging. Once we're finished with that fight, we find Pendant of Nostalgia along the way and head into the boss against the King Trash Crab. We start off this fight in Ego form, which could prove to be a problem as we instantly get staggered after the first turn. Painkillers has our back though, allowing us to make it out relatively unscathed. The rupture stack on us does get fairly high, but Burn combined with our AoE skill 2 makes sure the smaller crabs are staggered or dead, allowing us to fully focus everything we have on the king. We take 4-leaf clover as our reward and emerald elytra as a bonus, which combined with Pendant of Nostalgia transforms Sinclair into yet another pseudo-poise identity. For the 4th floor, we choose Addicting Lust, where we buy a phlebotomy pack and fuse Glimpse of Flames before entering into the fight against the Pink Shoes. An underwhelming 4th floor boss to say the least, but still dangerous as we are weak to blunt damage. Glimpse of Flames combined with the absurd DPS of Sinclair's Ego form though is more than enough to make incredibly short work of them, finishing the fight in only 3 turns. Our reward is Nebulizer, ensuring Sinclair is now poise count positive. For the final floor, we pick a certain world, find Imposed Weight and another skill 2. We find Bloody Gadget along the way and buy Resolution as well as Chief Butler's Secret Arts. Because we already have a pseudo-poise build, we also fuse Clear Mirror Calm Waters and Finifugality before heading into the final boss against Nelly. With Sinclair's average defenses, it's virtually guaranteed that Nelly will stagger him on the first turn, which is why I intentionally entered into this fight without max sanity and health. As soon as we are staggered, it's negated, allowing us to avoid becoming staggered a second time. Afterwards, we can easily stagger Nelly ourselves. Thanks to the combination of both of our tier 4 ego gifts, her health gets absolutely nuked as we finish the fight in a measly 4 turns.
제가 만약 도시에서 야구 선수가 되어 홈런을 날렸더라면 이런 기분이지 않았을까.
아마 그 공격이 약점이었겠죠? 숨기기 딱 한 번 먹었어.
후! 저것들도 취한 것처럼 손을 덮였는데?
그래서 저러는 건 아니겠지만요. 기회를 잡으시는 게 좋겠어요.
세계적이죠. 확실한 승리였어요. 돌아가면 저번처럼 홈파티라도 할까요?
And that's how I soloed Mirror Dungeon 4 hard with only Philip Sinclair. He is absurdly powerful, able to take out even the most difficult enemies with relative ease. The best part of his kit, though, is the anti-stagger. While his damage is incredible, the utility that it provides is far beyond that what words can describe. I seriously can't wait for Project Moon to add another identity that can manifest ego, but in the meantime, like and subscribe to not miss next time where we'll be using this mysterious stranger. Goodbye.